everybody, I'm Ryan and this is Samie, and we are the co-founders of Bustld, Bustld, and we're bringing you the Everyday on Bustld show where we're going to be talking about all things wedding planning. Today we are going to be focused on rentals. There's a lot of different things to kind of break down here, so let's just dive in.
All right, let's do it.
Perfect. So we're going to start with where to start. So when you are first setting out to look for your rentals and kind of piece those sorts of concepts together, when should you start all of that?
So you want to start probably about 6 to 8 months out looking at rentals. But before you do that, you need to have a floor plan in mind. So it doesn't have to be a final floor plan, but you want to have a good idea of, max capacity. What is your floor plan going to look like? Because you're going to need that information, number of tables or layouts and things like that you need before you can even start talking numbers and prices and options. Because some linens work for round tables and not rectangle tables and vice versa. So that's all stuff you need to think about before you even step foot inside a rental company.
Okay. So 6 to 8 months out, we've got the floor plan, we've got the venue. Yeah, because it wouldn't be that great if it really crowded up the space and you had just a lot of stuff everywhere.
Right, you need to know what you're looking for.
Right, yeah, absolutely. When you are starting in this process, do you need an appointment or could you just turn up?
So it depends on the rental shop. Some rental shops are by appointment only, so obviously there you would need to call ahead. And then some have a showroom where you can just wander in and then kind of take a look. There might be salespeople on the floor who can help you if you have questions. It's always a benefit to have an appointment, of course, because then you have someone who's going to be kind of dedicated to you during that time.
Sure.
But, if you just want a quick glance, then some showrooms can let you just wander in.
Yeah, okay. And what is the best way to prepare when you do go to the showroom?
So obviously you want to bring that floor plan with you, but then also kind of any inspiration you have. So if you have swatches of bridesmaids dresses or your dress, if you have color samples that you've selected, or if you have photo inspiration, so things that you found on Pinterest or linens you like, or pictures of your venue set up the way you like it. All that kind of stuff you want to bring to that appointment so that you can be really prepared.
Okay. I mean, yeah, even your floral design and all those things and the types of chairs, it's all going to be a part of that.
Yes, for sure.
And then another question that I feel like it's asked a lot, and it's something that, you would think about when you're looking at how much money you're spending on these things is, should you just buy them? Should you just buy your linens? Should you just buy your shibari chairs?
So sometimes it can seem less expensive, right? So maybe the rental price is a little bit more than buying price, but you have a couple of things to think about when you buy it. One, who's going to bring it to the venue, who's going to set it, who's going to break it down at the end of the night, and then who's going to clean it so that it's in, pristine condition at the end, later on after the wedding's done.
Yeah.
Especially with linens, or chargers or things like that are going to be touching food and can get really messy. So there's just a lot to think about. There's a lot of logistics. And then also after the wedding's said and done, what are you going to do with 25 matching, purple linens?
Right.
So that's another thing too. So it can really just be a lot easier on you to go through a rental company. You have a lot more options. Everything can come in from that same company, chairs, tables, linens, lights, tints, whatever you need. They can really customize it. They take care of all the ordering and everything. So it's just much easier of a wedding experience to just have that rental company kind of take care of everything.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I will say though, having a little one now, I could envision using those 25 linens as a fort.
That's true.
Sorry guys, I'm a little weird. So as far as, rental types, there's kind of two main ones that you see. There's obviously different types, but you tend to see vintage, and then you tend to see sort of the traditional things, like the showrooms and the like. So what are some of the key differences between the two?
So vintage is specializing, right? So they're going to have very specific pieces. So if you're looking for a vintage lounge area, or you want like a cute, chair for you and your significant other to sit in during dinner, they're going to have more of those kind of accent pieces that you would want. Maybe like a really cool cake table or something like that. Whereas your traditional rental places are going to have kind of everything. And they may even have vintage rentals, so that could be a part of their offering. But they're going to have everything. They're going to have your flatware, your chargers, chairs, tents, linens. So it's more of a one-stop shop. But a lot of times you can kind of supplement what they have with some of these other more specialty rental places like vintage rentals.
Gotcha. Okay. And then when it comes to vintage pieces, what are some good ways to incorporate them into kind of your design and the flow of your wedding?
Yeah, it can be such a cool way to kind of change things up. I love lounge areas, so whether it's in cocktail hour or maybe it's near the dance floor, or if you have, a couple of different rooms, maybe you have a main room for dining and then somewhere else for guests to go to sit and just have a conversation if they want to get away from the music. So lounge areas can be a great way to incorporate vintage rentals. Also, cake tables or, guest book tables, kind of those accent tables is another good way where you can kind of show some personality with some of those vintage. And then also the sweetheart or head table is a great way, picking out like a really cool chair or a little couch for you guys to sit on. That way it just kind of sets you apart even more, and it's cozy and romantic too.
Sure. Okay, perfect. And, there's a lot of options.
Yeah.
So how do you avoid getting overwhelmed? I'm overwhelmed talking about it.
So, obviously with Pinterest, there are so many options, and you can personalize everything. You can personalize your plates and your glassware and your flatware and your napkins and your linens and your chairs and all. The list goes on and on. A lot of times, a lot of the basics are included with your catering. So, maybe budget doesn't allow for everything, or you just feel way too overwhelmed. So maybe you go with the basics, but you accent with a really cool charger or a really cool napkin. So maybe if you're just feeling very overwhelmed and you don't want to customize everything, you kind of go with the basics and then add in a little bit of personality with one or two pieces. Maybe like a cool glass, like a colored glass that matches everything. So that can be a good way. Or, go into the showroom and play with the different options. So a lot of the showrooms will have, their entire inventory out for you to play with the table. So you can start setting it up and playing with it. And that can be a good way, make sure you allot enough time, bring your planner or meet with the stylist at the rental company, and they can help you kind of personalize and make sure that it's going to match your space and your aesthetic and, what you're going for overall for the wedding.
So you try to look to the experts and the professionals to help guide you.
Yeah, especially if you're
feeling
overwhelmed.
Sure.
Well, with Pinterest, it's easy to feel overwhelmed because you see 100 things you like, but
100?
you gotta, it's an understatement.
100,000, yeah.
But you really gotta pick, that one style that works for you on a wedding day.
Okay, perfect. And then as far as kind of other rentals, things to consider, a lot of couples will want to get married outside.
Yeah.
So that sort of opens up the whole weather thing.
Yeah.
So, do you really need a tent?
So you definitely need a tent if your plan is outside and you don't have a backup plan. But I think it's important when you're looking at venues that you know what your backup plan is. So is there a backup plan inside? Do you hate said backup plan, in which case you definitely are going to need a tent. A lot of places you put a hold on the tent, and then you make that decision of if you want the tent to go up, Wednesday or Thursday before the wedding. So you can kind of look at weather and get a feel for it, but you want to err on the side of caution, of course, because you want to make sure that you have somewhere to get married, or especially with a reception. If your reception's outside, you 100% need the tent. With a ceremony, there might be some kind of alternative, even if you hate it, just in case the weather decides that all of a sudden, it's going to change to 100% chance of rain.
Right.
But I think it's always a good idea. And, you can get a basic tent, or you can really up the ante with the tent, clear top and drapery and lighting and things like that.
Sure. Okay. And then one thing that I've heard a lot is that when you do put a hold on a tent, you typically have to put a non-refundable deposit down. Is that normal? And how do you kind of get over that hump of I may have to spend 50% of this and I may not get it back?
It is normal, and that's just kind of the cost of having your wedding outside. So when you're looking at venues, make sure you keep that kind of in the back of your head. If you think that a tent is going to be your backup option, you need to just go ahead and add that into the budget and just assume that money is going to be spent. Because most likely it's better to be prepared and have your guests, under something when it's pouring down rain than to not be able to get married or to have to delay everything a couple of hours. There can just be a lot of logistical things to think about.
Right, and it's not that folks are just rental companies are sitting on 1,000 tents that they can just go throw because there's a hurricane or what, not a hurricane, but there's like a bad storm.
Right.
And then even the piece that people don't really think as much about when it comes to tents and the cost of them is it's not even so much just the tent, it's the labor that goes into putting those up because they're really
100%.
complicated.
Oh yes, so much work that goes into it. So you want to make sure, like you said, they're not sitting on a huge inventory. So if all of a sudden the weather changes, everyone else who's getting married outside that weekend is going to have the exact same thought as you. So
Right.
those tents go really quickly. So by reserving it, you're making sure that you have the option to have that tent. That tent is yours. Should it be a nasty day, which hopefully it isn't.
Hopefully it's not.
It's always better to be prepared, especially if your alternative is something that you really don't like.
Yeah.
So you're going to be really disappointed.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So, staying on the topic of tents, what are some cool ways to incorporate your style into a tent? So it's not just, tent and grass.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many cool things you can do with tents. There's different styles of tents. So you can do, like a clear top tent. You can add drapery. You can add all kinds of lighting, market lights, chandeliers. There's so much that you can do inside of a tent to make it look really beautiful. You can add color. It's a really cool way to kind of customize it and create your own personal space outside.
Perfect. Well, you kind of already alluded to it, but do market lights really make a difference? Not just even in the tents, but just in general. I mean, even inside.
Yeah, I mean, I think all lighting makes a huge difference, actually. So market lights are really trendy and cool right now, and they look amazing inside or outside. Yeah, I know. Me too. Especially inside, they kind of bring the outside in. But all kinds of lighting can make a huge difference. Pin spotting, uplighting. You can do really cool things with lighting, and that can really transform a space. So it's definitely something worth investing in. Should budget allow it.
So, kind of staying with that, one thing I've noticed at times with market lights is they can be really, really bright. Are there ways to kind of work around that and have them lower or higher?
So all lighting, any lighting that's going to be hung like that, like chandeliers or market lights or something, I would definitely talk to your rental company and find out if they have a dimmer, because the dimmers are great. I think it's worth the investment. That way, as the lights go down, the night kind of progresses, you can dim those lights and really create that ambiance that you want for your nighttime reception.
Okay, perfect. Well, again, thank you for sharing this. It's really helpful to kind of think through all the different options, and especially for the folks that don't have a planner.
Of course.
There's a lot of things happening here.
There is.
So as always, I always like to ask, when our couples, tune out and they're ready to start planning and getting back to it, what are some of the best next steps for them when it comes to handling the whole rental situation?
So work on your floor plan, get a good idea of kind of max capacity, what that floor plan is going to look like. Make a list of the things that you absolutely have to have because your venue or caterer doesn't provide it. And then make a list of the things that are would like to have, like market lights or specialty linens, things like that. And then set up the appointments. Go in, pull pictures before you go in and start playing and kind of putting together what that look is going to look like, so you can start getting some initial proposals.
Perfect.